This is a lesson for Thursday, October 10th. We're talking about slope. So I first have to apologize because I don't have my Mobi with me, so I'm just going to be writing with the mouse, so it might be a little messy. First it says, here's our warm-up, find the value of x. Now it shows these lines are parallel, so I know that this angle, if they're parallel, my corresponding angles are congruent, right? So this is also equal to 4x minus 30. Now, I can see that 4x minus 30 and angle x make a linear pair, right? They make a straight line. So I could say, all right, well great, x plus 4x minus 30 equals, if it makes a linear pair or makes a line, it equals 180 degrees. So I can go ahead and solve for x. So this is 5x minus 30 because x plus 4x. And then I can continue to solve. So I can add 30 to both sides. That's going to be 210. So 5x equals 210. And then I can say, all right, divide both sides by 5. 210 divided by 5 is going to be 42.5. So x equals 42.5. Okay, so today we are talking about slope. So to start off, we watched this brief video.
Welcome to the Adventures of Slope Dude. Meet Slope Dude. He loves to ski. We are going to follow him and he'll teach us some important aspects of slope. This is the course he's skiing today. What he says will teach us about slope. Always remember that Slope Dude always skis toward the right or eastward. When he starts out, he's going uphill. It's hard work. He says puff, puff, positive as he goes up the mountainside. Puff, puff, positive. Puff, puff, positive. Now he's at the top. He was puff, puff, positive all the way up the mountain, but now he can look forward to the downhill. On the way down the mountain, he says, nice, negative, nice, negative, nice, negative. And now, after the downhill, he's in for the hardest part of the ski route, the long, flat part. He says, this is zero fun. This is zero fun. This is zero fun. As he finishes the flat part, he doesn't see well ahead, and all of a sudden he comes to the edge of a cliff. It's straight down. He finds a slope that is straight down, and so frightened is he that he says the worst curse word possible in math and in algebra. Undefined. This has been the adventure of Slope Dude. Remember always what he said during his ski trip. Up the hill or up the slope, he said puff, puff, positive. On his downhill run, he said nice, negative. On the long flat part of the course, he said this is zero fun. And finally, when he went over the vertical cliff and straight down, he yelled the worst curse word.
Okay, so that gives us an idea. On your picture, on your notes, please go ahead and just remind yourself when this line is going rising over and running and they're both positive, it's going to be puff, puff, positive. When it's going downhill, when I'm going down and to the right, negative over positive, or I could go positive over negative, backwards, it's negative slope. When the slope is a horizontal line, it's 0, and when it's a vertical line, it is undefined. Oops. Now, you have these in your notes. Slope can be expressed in different ways. Remember, we call m represents slope. The formula to find m is if you have the slope between 2 points, you find the difference, or subtract your y values, and you divide that by the difference of your x values. You could also think of this as rise over run, or instead of rise, you could think of the vertical change up and down, and run is the horizontal change, or side to side. So again, a line has a positive slope if it is going uphill from left to right. You always go left to right, just like you read. A line has a negative slope if it's going downhill from left to right. So here's the first one. Determine the slope of the line. When you're given the graph, it's easier to apply rise over run. So for example, I like to choose 2 points that cross at one of the corners of the grid. So I'm going to try here, and then I'm going to choose this point right here. Alright, so rise over run, I rise 1 and I run 2. So my slope, m, is going to equal 1 over 2, which is the same as 1/2. So m equals 1/2. Oops. I don't know what's happening. M equals 1/2. Rise 1 over 2. Okay. Next, it says to try again. Go ahead and determine the slope of this line. This time they give the points. So this time I always start left to right. So I'm going to start at this point. I'm going to rise. It actually turns out I go downhill. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I go down 7, minus 7, and I run over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Negative 7/9. You could also start here. I go up 7, so this is positive 7, over, and at this time I'm going to the left, so I'm going negative 9. A lot of people get this confused, but negative 7/9 is the same as 7 over negative 9. You can really write that as a negative 7 over 9. Okay, now it says find the slope of the line that passes through the points negative 2, 2, and 4, 1. So I'm going to call this my first point, okay? So this is going to be x1, first point, and y1. And then I'm going to call this one second point, x2 and y2. And I'm going to use my formula, y2 minus y1, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. If it's easier for you, you can plot these points, and then you could think, okay, the rise is really just that difference between the y's, right? I have to go from 1 to negative 2. That's the same as what I'm calculating here. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to type this. So this is going to be the difference in y's, y2, so 1 minus a negative 2. So that's going to be my y's. If it's minus a minus, remember that becomes a positive. And then over my difference in x's, so x is 4 minus a negative 2. So if I simplify that, minus a minus, that turns into a positive. So this is going to be 3 over 4 minus negative 2, another positive, over 6, which is the same as a half. Next one. Find the slope of the line that passes through 3, 5, and negative 1, 4. So again, I'll say this is point 1. So x1 y1, and x2, y2. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my formula. So change in y's, y2 minus y1. So I'm going to say 4 minus 5, that's my y points, divided by x2 minus x1. So negative 1 minus 3. So if I find that difference, 4 minus 5 is negative 1 over negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Now negative divided by a negative, that is a positive, so the slope is 1/4. Finally, well, we saw this in our video. What's the slope of a horizontal line? Remember, rise over run. The line doesn't rise, so I don't rise any. I rise 0. I could say these are my 2 points, this point and this point. So I could say rise 0 divided by 2, or rise 0 divided by, if I would run, 4. No matter what, 0 divided by any number is always 0. So the slope of a horizontal line, you can add this to your notes, is always 0. Slope of a vertical line, though, say I rise an infinite number, right? So that really is undefined. But I could say I rise 2 between this point and this point, and I run 0. A number divided by 0, that is undefined. Okay, the last one, it says draw a line through the point 2, 0 that has a slope of 3. So I'm going to graph the ordered pair 2, 0. Over 2, up 0. Here's 2, 0. Has a slope of 3. If it has a slope of 3, really that has a slope of 3 over 1. Right? Because 3 divided by, any number divided by 1 is always just itself. So I'm going to write that slope as a fraction. And then I'm going to go ahead and just find all the points with that slope. So I would rise 3, run 1. I could go down 2. I could go down 3, back 1, because negative over a negative is also positive. So then if I connect those points, and again, it goes on and on and on in both directions. So I got to have arrows on both sides. Last example is the slope of a line that goes through the points R6 and 4, 2 is 4. Find R. So again, this time they give me the slope. That's M. So I'm going to use my formula. I'm going to go right next to it. So 4, and we can say 4 over 1, right? Over 1 is the same as change in y. So let's choose this one as x2 and y2. x2, y2. The way I decided that was because I saw, oh, well, 6 minus 2 is positive, and I think that's kind of nice. So I'm going to go in that order this time. y1. So I'm going to say 6 minus 2, change in y's, right? Divided by r minus 4. So now I need, so 6 minus 2, that's the same as 4. So this is great. So I want it to equal, I want it to be the same as this. So 4, awesome. And I need r minus 4. So I have to ask myself, I want this denominator to be equal to 1. So I have to ask myself, okay, what does r have to be? What minus 4 equals 1? So I could set an equation up if I can't think of what that number is. And I could say 1 equals r minus 4. I could add 4 to both sides, and I would get 5 equals r. So my point would be 5, 5. So that completes our lesson. You can go ahead and complete the slope homework in Chapter 2.